only on the C-SPAN networks. Washington Journal continues.
I want to show viewers a recent Newsweek headline. It is this: Generation Z conservative writes what Charlie Kirk meant to my generation. That Gen Z conservative is Alex Rosado. He joins us now. Alex Rosado, what did Charlie Kirk mean to conservatives under the age of 30 in this country?
Well, thank you so much for having me on the program, John, and may our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ protect the soul of Charlie Kirk in heaven. We have to say, at least for someone in this generation, I'm 23 years old, and Charlie Kirk went and made inroads with us when a lot of culture and a lot of institutions just refused to do so. He represented authenticity in a time of political participation that felt like it didn't include us in the national conversation. According to a study from The Hill, about 88% of college students self-censor themselves on campus because they think it's necessary for them to succeed. You're seeing that from the Steamboat Institute as well, that 52% of individuals say that it's necessary to block students from attending a so-called controversial speaker. So Charlie Kirk just didn't offer us a seat at the table. He lended the microphone to those who dissented the most against him, and I truly think that conversation and courageous dialogue benefits when all people are involved in that conversation.
23 years old, you said?
23.
When did you first encounter Charlie Kirk?
I'd say many years ago, just through the social media algorithms on YouTube and Instagram. I would say around high school as well, and he's been a big part of at least understanding and developing my beliefs, and I'm sure that goes for many people in Generation Z who agreed and disagreed with him as well.
Gettysburg College?
That's correct.
Did Charlie Kirk ever come to your campus when you were there?
He did not, but TPUSA tried to start a chapter there many years ago, but to no avail.
Do you ever go to one of the Prove Me Wrong events that he would do?
I wish I had the opportunity to do so, and one of my biggest regrets now is that I wished I listened to him more when he was still alive.
What do you think those events meant to conservatives on campus? That dialogue back and forth that has gotten so much attention in the days and weeks since his death?
I think especially with that banner of Prove Me Wrong, it wasn't proving him wrong, it was proving to ourselves that the values and the social mores that we hold near and dear to our hearts are really the ones that are worth promoting and the ones that are going to contribute to an enduring moral order. You see, especially with civility, it's on the decline in America. According to ABA, 88% of Americans say that civility is on the decline, but there's a need for these conversations not only to restore it, but also for people to just be more engaged about the current affairs and events that are going on within the country. And Charlie Kirk, by going essentially into the lion's den of more so liberal arts colleges that essentially stymie independent thought as opposed to foster it, that was very brave of him to do, and especially that infrastructure strode out in droves, especially in the 2024 election, when you had a swath of young people go out and vote for the GOP, vote for Donald Trump, vote for conservative values that they thought was representative of what they needed the country to present. You write in your Newsweek article that Charlie Kirk took the public square to us, to Generation Z. Was the public square limited? Was Generation Z not allowed in the public square before that? There's studies that show that Gen Z feels incivility the most out of every other generation, whether it be online, in the classroom, in their daily interactions. And especially you're seeing that with a lot of social anxiety that is built up within Gen Z. About 50% of Gen Z feels that they've felt depressed or anxious at least once in this last year, and 80% say that it's like this almost all the time. You're seeing it too with economic insecurity. According to Newsweek, 31% of Gen Z runs out of money at the end of the month. According to the Walton Family Foundation, you're seeing too that 2/3 of Generation Z feels that financial resources are a barrier to their growth and their success. So there's a lot of confounding factors that make Gen Z scared of and discouraged of current affairs in this current environment. But what Charlie Kirk tried to do is say, not everything is doom and gloom. I want to give you the opportunity to extend your voice and opinion and to contribute to the larger zeitgeist that we shouldn't be passive recipients in. We have a stake in it as well, and it's about time that people in my generation and even all generations claim their stake. Alex Rosado, our guest, his column about Generation Z and Charlie Kirk is in Newsweek, and you can join the conversation. Phone line split, as usual, by political party. Democrats 202-748-8000, Republicans 202-748-8001, Independents 202-748-8002. Viewers will see on your ID that pops up on their screens, Young Voices Contributor as your title. What is Young Voices? Young Voices is a nonprofit talent agency that helps libertarian, conservative, and independent thinkers get placed in media, such as C-SPAN.
Is that how you ended up writing the Newsweek article? How did you get that writing gig?
Originally, when I first saw the news, I was at work, and I was very distraught for the rest of the day, and I felt that this was something that needed to be published, encapsulated not only of a lot of the angst and anxiety that's caught up in my generation, but I'm sure many people who were watching that event unfold around the world, South Korea and Britain, you're saying that now we are Charlie Kirk. Young people are going out on the streets and declaring their independence. So I think this was something that was necessary to write, but also encapsulative of that environment that seems to exclude Gen Z.
You talk about the angst and anxiety of Gen Z. Spencer Cox, the governor of Utah, after the Charlie Kirk shooting, that called social media a cancer on American society. As a member of Gen Z, are you on social media?
Of course.
Is it a cancer on American society? How do you use it?
I use it primarily to gather news, and I know traditional media, especially legacy media, has lost its sway with a lot of younger folks, particularly according to the Media Research Center, that 31% still have an enduring trust in legacy media to report fairly, not including C-SPAN, of course, and having studies from the Rochester University showing that there's 1.8 million headlines that they analyzed in news outlets like MSNBC, CNN, Fox News. They've been growing particularly partisan and polarizing over time. So people are scouting out alternative media, such as podcasts, such as going on social media, to try and fill that void of what legacy media left behind. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a cancer on society, not by any means. I think it's just a different alternative as to what we're used to, because the systems that are in place haven't been able to uphold their journalistic integrity for quite some time.
Where do you go for your news?
I go on Twitter, go on Instagram, no TikTok for me, and just usual outlets like Politico, go on New York Times, go on Fox News. Other ones like
so you consume that content just through social media, or are there specific podcasts that you go to for your news? Are there specific social media influencers that you trust more than somebody who has, White House reporter in their title?
I listen to folks such as Benny Johnson, Jack Posobiec, some of the more mainstream conservative commentators, a little bit of Charlie Kirk when he was alive as well. And I think this goes to show that there is now a enduring stake that a lot of these more sort of alternative media outlets have, because 20% of people in my generation actually get news from influencers, as opposed to reporters and anchors and journalists. So I think you're seeing competition that is arising from that free market as well, and making sure that not only is there a diverse sway of different opinions and perspectives, but also one that's going to fuel the national conversation, and I think that's important to have.
Alex Rosado joining us, taking your questions and comments with us till about the bottom of the hour or so. So go ahead and get your calls in. We'll start on the Republican line. Joe is in Cleveland. Joe, you're on with Alex Rosado.
Yes. I have I don't know if it's a question, but I would like to make a statement of my disapproval of my Republican Party for what they're attempting to do in cities where they're not welcome. And
Joe, are you referring to National Guard deployments?
Well, no, I'm what I'm displeased with is not the National Guard deployment, was the fact that we're sending any kind of troops or police or whatever into the Democrat-run liberal progressive cities when the people that live there voted for their elected officials and they don't want to take care of crime, murder, rape, break into department stores and what have you. So I feel like if the people elected their officials in there, then why do we have to go in and try to correct their mistakes? They don't want us there to start with, so why are we there?
That's Joe in Ohio. Alex Rosado, do you have any thoughts on the National Guard deployments and also serving in the military and what that means for people of your generation, as somebody who's come on to speak as a voice for Gen Z?
Certainly, I think Joe brings up a very potent point in today's national conversation, especially when local officials that are assigned and elected to cater to backyard needs, and they fail to do so, alternatives get scouted out in place. We're taking a look right now at potentially Trump sending in National Guard troops to Chicago. And you're seeing there that Brandon Johnson, who ran on a bold progressive message of defund the police and other tactics that do not favor law enforcement, he has a 27% approval right now in Chicago, which to his credit is more than the 14% approval rating that he had earlier this year. But you're seeing that most 911 calls of high priority aren't being answered or attended to. You're seeing that 7 out of 10 people who commit crimes in Chicago are released before trial. So there is no reputation for law and order. So I think having the National Guard come in and fill in these cracks that local leaders have just refused to do so, I think it's necessary to uphold social order. I think it's necessary to garner freedom, whether it be economically, the ability for people to congregate, and freedom of expression as well. It's actually studies that show that areas with low crime correlate with higher rates of investment. So you're going to procure a lot more freedom from this as well. To speak on the second issue for military service, that is completely up to my generation if they choose to enlist. Certainly would help with our national defense and our national security. We would implore Generation Z to take the steps necessary to defend and be active within this country. But ultimately, they have agency. They have choice. And that is up for them to decide.
David, Cincinnati, Ohio, line 4 Democrats. Good morning. You're on with Alex Rosado.
Well, yeah, correcting him as I should. People who are released before trial in Chicago are released on bond most of the time. Get it straight, kid. Anyway, Charlie Kirk was these people's propaganda minister, just like Trump's hero Adolf Hitler. He had a propaganda minister too.
All right, we'll hold off on the Nazi comparisons. Alex Rosado, did you watch any of yesterday's funeral?
I did. I watched all of it. And I would say particularly there was one quote by Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. that stood out to me. It was his mother's advice. And when he asked, does the whole of losing a loved one ever get smaller, she says no. We just grow bigger and stronger around it. And I truly think that that's the direction that the country needs to go in, especially in the wake of this horrific assassination, is that we need civility back in America. Actually, according to the Ronald Reagan Institute, 6, 7 people say that they want to be part of the national revival. There's a spiritual revival going on as well, especially in my generation. Generation Z is attending church at higher rates than every other generation. They're giving up vice, they're giving up alcohol, they want seeking, they want belonging, and truly they want continuity, family, the ability to have social stability, and also just the American dream that for so many of them seems to be slipping through their fingers. But America needs a robust defense and promotion of its values, of free speech, of freedom of expression, limited government, free markets, individual responsibility and agency, and that enduring social and moral order that is founded on religious principles.
How do we bring civility back?
I think we carry on the message of Charlie Kirk. Truly, it's getting in those places that have been brushed over for far too long, including academic campuses, including those communities that feel left behind. And Donald Trump Jr. actually said this yesterday in his speech at the funeral. He said, you must be crazy to try and persuade college campus people. We'll get them to vote Republican after they start paying taxes. But Charlie Kirk represented that ability to take the chance on the youth, because these are the people that are going to take the mantle and lead us into the brighter future and the ascent of America that is still going to happen. Now, for people in my generation, I understand your pain, your anxiety, your anguish. And it seems like we live in a society that has improbable circumstances and impossible expectations. But sometimes it pays to be the underdog, because there's nothing else for us to do except to go out and shock the world. And truly, I think that's what we need to do with peace, with conviction, and with faith.
Among those who also spoke at Charlie Kirk's funeral yesterday, his widow, Erica Kirk. This is about 2 minutes of her address to those 70-some thousand people in the arena and hundreds more, millions more watching.
My husband, Charlie, he wanted to save young men just like the one who took his life. That young man. On the cross, our Savior said, "Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do." That man, that young man, I forgive him. I forgive him because it was what Christ did and is what Charlie would do. The answer to hate is not hate. The answer we know from the gospel is love, and always love. Love for our enemies and love for those who persecute us.
Erica Kirk yesterday at Charlie Kirk's funeral. Alex Rosado, your thoughts on that moment yesterday?
It's difficult to not be moved by such a moment. There were 200,000 Americans in attendance in Glendale, Arizona yesterday. Even more in the overflow. Millions watching from around the world online. And what you saw in that moment is exactly the trajectory of what America needs to adopt. It's faith, it's forgiveness, it's empathy. And truly, Erica Kirk in that moment represented the very best of us. Tyler Robinson, the assassin who took Charlie Kirk's life, the husband of and the father of her children. He's no longer with us. But his spirit is going to carry on through the ideals that he paved, and that moment right there truly represented what the American renewal is all about. It's having the ability to speak up courageously. We shouldn't be defined by our darkest hour, but by the light that we bring in and how we react to that circumstance. It's one of conviction, it's one of hope, and it's one that I know a lot of people really resonated with during that time.
And for folks who want to watch the entire funeral, you can watch it on our website at cspan.org. Back to your phone calls with Alex Rosado. This is John in Norfolk, Virginia, independent. Morning, John.
Yes, I just have a quick comment and a quick question. First of all, I want to say I do not believe that nobody should be killed or anybody should be killed based on their personal beliefs. But I also believe that as far as Charlie Kirk, if he was such a person who wanted to help, especially minorities. Now, to be fair to Charlie Kirk, I didn't see all his videos, but the videos that I did see, whenever he talked about minorities, it was always in an insulting fashion. He never talked about solutions. And when I think about somebody trying to help somebody, I think about them offering solutions instead of always trying to criticize somebody, and especially about their IQ. Why was Charlie Kirk so critical, especially of minorities, and always questioning their IQ? And to me, if somebody's trying to help you, they're coming with more solutions instead of a whole bunch of criticism. And what I heard for Charlie Kirk was more criticism. Now, you do have that right to criticize somebody. But as far as Charlie Kirk trying to help all these people, that people's trying to claim that Charlie Kirk is trying to help, I doubt that very seriously. What I heard from Charlie Kirk was more criticism than anything else.
John, got your point. Alex Rosado.
Certainly, I think you speak to a greater cultural malaise that exists within America, especially for everybody, not just minorities, but truly all demographics, races, creeds. I think Charlie Kirk embodied principles that wanted to uplift America as a whole, not just cater to one certain sect of the population. You're seeing that Charlie Kirk advocated, especially on programs like Jubilee, especially in town halls, going to college campuses. He promoted economic equality of opportunity, not of outcome. We need an entrepreneurial spirit again in America, not only to create businesses, because 1/3 of businesses were lost during the COVID-19 pandemic, but you're also seeing too that you need to have the ability to have a secure financial footing and sound ability to reason. I think especially endowing those traits in the youngest generation, and even for those that are older, that's going to benefit everybody. He championed principles that were not only eternal, but relevant to everybody, whether that be in the economic sphere or having individual agency in terms of participating and making your stake and claim in the national or even local environments. Truly, we need a message of empowerment. And I think that's going to come from all sectors, whether it be religious, whether it be social, whether it be political. And truly, it's going to take every single one of us to get that national spirit back.
Let me come back to Gen Z and other generations, trying to understand Gen Z, what you're thinking, what you were raised on. The Pew Research Center breaks down political affiliation by generation, and within that, by gender. And they look at Gen Z, the breakdown, 52% of those aged 18 to 29 in this country, 52% of men are Republican, 34% of men are Democrat. It's pretty much the opposite when it comes to women. 58% of Gen Z say they are Democrats, 37% of women say they are Republican. It's a bigger gender gap than any other generation. Our viewers can see it on their screen. Why is that?
Well, I think it has to do with a lot of lifestyle choices. You're seeing now that Generation Z is taking things a lot more slow. They're delaying milestones such as getting a job, having children, getting married. And I think in that sense, it's more so trying to feel out the environment for themselves as opposed to staunch political beliefs. But you're seeing that reflected in dating statistics as well. About 77% of Gen Z, especially those who trend in a more liberal direction, don't want to date those who have opposite political affiliations or beliefs than them. So you're seeing also a romantic crisis within Gen Z, and that's why people feel so lonely. They lack connection, they lack intimacy, and I think truly that it's something that is resemblant of the times, but it doesn't have to be that way.
I guess the question is, do Republicans need to do a better job of reaching out to young women? And you could ask Democrats the question, do Democrats need to do a better job of reaching out to young men?
I think it goes for both parties that inroads must be made with the younger generation, regardless of politics. Because as long as you recognize that they're going to have a stake in the future of this country, yes, and campaigning specifically on issues that are going to unite rather than divide people. I think having stable income is something that's going to unite people. I think having patriotism at the center of every political message is necessary for our generation. Because according to Gallup earlier this year, you saw that only 41% of Americans that are in the 18 to 29 age group think that America is a great country. They believe in America. In 2023, only 18% said that they were extremely proud to be an American. Contrast that with findings from the Democracy Fund, where they said that about 2/3 of Americans feel that America is an unjust country, and that 4 out of 10 believe that the Founding Fathers were villains rather than heroes. There's a civic gulf that exists within my generation, and even broader America. We need to have those principles front and center for a way for a national renewal, and that's going to make effective messaging and political messaging better for both Democrats and Republicans.
Las Vegas, this is Lynn, line for Republicans. Lynn, you're on with Alex Rosado.
Hi. I have a different way of breaking down the Bible. Lord, I believe, is living organism road, and you put the cross in the middle of that, and the living organism is our body and our mind. Solomon was the wisdom and God Almighty, and Jesus was the flesh that we all live in, and that's why we're supposed to unconditionally do everything, because when you have a condition in your heart, then you have a reason to hate somebody next to you. And if that's what's in your heart, then you're going to do it no matter what. So we all live on the living organism road, and when we get to the end of the road or a decision, if we don't look to Jesus, then we're looking to the flesh or whatever the lust is that we desire. And Jesus wants to be in the center of the cross. So when you look back, you see a door, D-R, not a doctor and not somebody else, but you see the door of the Almighty Jesus. And when you look down, you either have Jones, which is the Dow Jones, which is money we need, or you have Jesus.
All right. That's Lynn in Las Vegas. Just a few minutes left with Alex Rosado. You're 23 years old. What are your career plans?
Well, I'm in Washington, D.C. I've been working at a foreign policy think tank for a few months now, and just looking in the broader future, my plans are subject to change, truly. I don't even know what tomorrow is going to be like. So really just sticking with what I know, what I have to offer, and truly the impact that I can make today, regardless of the environment, I think is going to be crucial, and we'll see what happens in the future.
Is politics something you could see yourself going into?
Well, if duty calls, certainly wouldn't close the door on it, but if it happens to end up being that way, so be it.
When were you first interested in politics?
I would say this was back in 2016. My parents were originally from New York. They weren't very political. But then one man came down a golden escalator, Donald Trump, and he promised an American renewal. And my parents got involved. They started paying attention. And truly those values trickled on to me, and those were ones that I resonated with as well.
So you were 14?
Around that time, yes.
And you were paying attention to politics at 14?
Passively, but yes.
What was it that resonated with you? Was it a specific policy? Was it, you talked about Donald Trump said he was going to drain the swamp and what the swamp was. What do you remember about that?
We appreciated brevity, especially at a time when a lot of politicians were essentially shape-shifting around different priorities and policies. Donald Trump gave us a clear message, identified the problem, identified a solution, cut out all of the fat that existed within the middle. So I think especially for a lot of Americans that you saw in 2016 and 2024, they resonated with it, especially those in my generation. There was a study that came out from Tufts University that showed that back in 2020, Joe Biden won the age 18 to 29 age group demographic by about 20 points. Kamala Harris in 2024 still won that age group, but she only won it by 4 points. You saw that also with voters who identified as moderate, where Joe Biden won them by 25 points. Donald Trump won them in 2024 by 5 points. So you're seeing these large swings towards clear messaging, identifying problems, and having it just be front and center as opposed to kind of dancing and beating around the bush.
Time for one or two more phone calls. This is Kelly, Texas Independent. Go ahead.
Hi. I think that, yes, this generation does not have the hope of a better life than their parents and their grandparents. It's the first time in generations, but it doesn't mean that young people, especially young Christian men today, need to go and follow someone just blindly. College is for resistance, critical thinking, critical learning. It's not the time to just blindly follow white Christian nationalist men who have not been discriminated against, to also the detriment of the rest of society. Thank you very, very much.
Alex Rosado, how would you respond?
Well, I would say that the American uplifting and the spirit of America consists of all of us, but especially what you spoke upon about faith is truly today you have to have faith in something. Have faith in the eternal, seek joy. And I think this speaks to the larger fundamental question that a lot of folks in my generation and otherwise are asking themselves. Do you want to feel good or do you want to be good? Marcus Aurelius, who's a famous philosopher, spoke in one of his pieces that we shouldn't waste time debating what a good man should be. You should be one. You should exemplify the values that are going to create permanent things. Things that are going to resist, things that are going to develop into a culture in which everyone can be proud of. Diversity of viewpoints and perspectives are going to help enrich the national conversation and include those who feel marginalized and those who are right now tinkering at the margins of the world. It's going to have faith because our country, our culture, our communities, and Christ are all worth defending. So it's time to get active. It's time to get in the fight.
One last call. Cindy's been waiting in Northport, Florida, Republican. Cindy, go ahead.
Hi. I'm glad to see you on today, Alex. I want to tell people that I'm a 75-year-old woman. I have followed Charlie Kirk for years, and I watched him bring light to college students all over the world. He let them have their say, but he also planted seeds about what was going on in the world. We cannot abort all of our children. We cannot tell them it's all right to think they're a boy and a girl at the same time. We cannot allow lawlessness and all of the fighting and arguing and the stealing and the theft. The murders are out of line. All of the things that are going wrong, Charlie Kirk tried to make young people see. He tried to teach history, and history repeats itself, and he wanted young people to see where we were headed and change it for the good. Thank you for taking my call.
It's Cindy in Florida. Alex Rosado, give you the final minute or two here.
Well, thank you, Cindy, for that. Matthew 17:20 commands us that as long as you have faith the size of a mustard seed, that nothing is impossible. We've lost our sense and our passion and penchant for national conversation, substantive dialogue that is going to create the change and the disagreements that are necessary to drive our country forward. We're no longer able to operate within echo chambers, because you're seeing this country be pulled apart at times it seems at its seams. So we need to have mutual understanding and unity around the shared values that are going to make America prosperous, flourish, and have the interdisciplinary knowledge to see its best days ahead in its next 250 years. And again, I will preface, it comes from limited government, free markets, free speech, free expression, recognizing the agency and responsibility of individual people. It comes from compassion. It comes from empathy. Truly, I say this as a 23-year-old after everything that just happened with the Charlie Kirk assassination, is my hopes for this country have never been higher. The great people of this nation are going to rise to the occasion because that is what we've always done. Our founding fathers were statesmen. They were businessmen, they were scientists, they were churchgoers. They used their knowledge to form documents and enduring principles that we still feel today, and those that resemble with the hearts and minds of everyone that are involved. It's those principles that won us Revolutionary War, brought us back together after a civil war, won us 2 world wars and a Cold War. And that's going to be the one that takes us and carries us into the next chapter of this great democratic experiment that we call the United States of America. So thank you so much for your time, and God bless.
Alex Rosado, if you want to read his piece on what Charlie Kirk meant to Generation Z, you can do so in Newsweek. Do appreciate you joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Coming up in about 40 minutes this morning, Cenk Uygur joins us, host of the commentary program, The Young Turks. But until then, it is open forum. Any public policy issue, any political issue that you want to talk about, now's your time to call in. Phone numbers are on the screen. Go ahead and start calling now, and we'll get to those calls right after the break.
Middle and high school students join C-SPAN as we celebrate America's 250th anniversary during our 2026 C-SPAN Student Cam Video Documentary Competition. This year's theme is Exploring the American Story through the Declaration of Independence. We're asking students to create a 5 to 6 minute documentary that answers one of 2 questions. What's the Declaration's influence on a key moment from America's 250-year history? Or how have its values touched on a contemporary issue that's impacting you or your community? We encourage all students to participate, regardless of prior filmmaking experience. Consider interviewing topical experts and explore a variety of viewpoints around your chosen issue. Students should also include clips of related C-SPAN footage, which are easy to download on our website, studentcam.org. C-SPAN Student Cam Competition awards $100,000 in total cash prizes to students and teachers, and $5,000 for the grand prize winner. Entries must be received before January 20th, 2026. For competition rules, tips, or just how to get started, visit our website at studentcam.org.
And past president, why are you doing this? This is outrageous.
This is a kangaroo court.
This fall, C-SPAN presents a rare moment of unity, Ceasefire, where the shouting stops and the conversation begins. Join Political Playbook Chief Correspondent and White House Bureau Chief Dasha Burns as host of Ceasefire, bringing two leaders from opposite sides of the aisle into a dialogue to find common ground. Ceasefire, this fall on the network that doesn't take sides, only on C-SPAN.
Washington Journal continues.